Agreed.
Paul, can you keep an eye out for hands in case I do miss anybody, please? Thank you, my lovely. All right, if you're ready to go to YouTube, then I'm ready to start.
Yep, we're up and live.
Okay, hello everybody and welcome to tonight's planning meeting.
Evening, Chairman.
So have we got any apologies, Nina?
Got apologies from Councillors Ralph and G. Collins.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest from anybody? No.
Only those I've previously given.
Thank you, Robin. Minutes of the previous meeting, are they agreed? Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say, on the previous minutes, on the second page, there is a typo regarding the solar farm proposals. In the second paragraph, at the end of it, it talks of a Roman village. That should be Roman villa, no GE. That's
okay.
The Roman villa at the Thornborough Twins. Thank you.
Thank you. Nina, have you got that? Thank you, my lovely. Okay, neighbourhood, Buckingham neighbourhood plan, Veld Aylesbury plan. Is there any update of that, Paul?
Just to remind councillors that we have set up the neighbourhood plan subcommittee meeting, which I think is on the 29th of the month, and we'll send out an agenda beforehand.
Robin?
Yeah.
Just in brief, it was mentioned on the webcast that Buckinghamshire Council is looking to prepare the Buckinghamshire plan. So I don't know what we make of that. Please watch the webcast of the cabinet meeting. It was clearly stated audibly that they were looking at putting together the Buckinghamshire plan. I don't know what that actually means in regards to both the Vale plan and the other plan. It might be something we need, the Chiltern plan, it might be something we need to seek clarity on.
Right. Okay.
It's on the webcast.
What meeting was that, Robin?
It was the cabinet meeting in response to my question over the motion we discussed earlier. It was given in response that they are preparing to look at the Buckinghamshire plan.
Okay.
So I think that's something that is in the public domain, that they're looking at it. I think it's reasonable for us to ask questions about those matters which are still concerning. It could be that they would be preparing it in respect of whether they were doing the Vale plan or not. I don't know. I'm not in charge of planning, but it's something we should seek clarity on.
Okay, so is there no updates, Paul?
No other update from me.
Okay, thank you. Right, action reports, Appendix A. Anybody? Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Paul, I sent a photograph to you via Catherine of the Tindrick Road roundabout. I wonder if you could get it up on the screen for us.
I can do that.
Thank you very much. While you're doing that, I'll just another thing here on the action list, second page, 10 Hilltop Avenue, just to say Catherine's already agreed the decision made C agenda is not correct. So underneath, right. Councillor Mills has declined, hasn't been made yet. Thank you. Yeah, this is what I want to talk on. This Steve Essam, you'll notice on the first page, has Tindrick Road roundabout signage, which I raised at the last meeting. Yeah. He has agreed with most of the stuff we said. The one thing he hasn't come back with is where you've got that 7.5 ton limit to the left. It should say town centre there, because we are encouraging people to come down the Tindrick Road to come to the university, to the shops, the town centre, the hotels. We don't want them to go to the next turning and have to trickle down through Mitre Street, which is nearly always blocked, past the narrow parts of the university. So we need that town centre sign pointing to the left. It's got a 7.5 ton sign there already. That's fine. That'll discourage truck drivers, but any other visitors, and they've just literally gone past "Welcome to Buckingham, historic market town and heritage centre," and then we're telling them not to go down there. So it doesn't make sense. Could we please raise that with Mr. Essam?
Definitely. Yeah. Members happy with that?
Can I just say that surely we should encourage them to come down London Road rather than down through Tinchwick Road and into Cannon Corner. It'd be much better if they came along the bypass 2 roundabouts and then came down London Road.
To be fair, I think that's what the original signage was doing. It was stopping, like trying to avoid people coming into town through that way. But if we've got more housing and university stuff, I don't know. I mean, the sign needs changing regardless, but any other members' thoughts on this? And I can't see hands because all I can see is the photo. Ah, there you are. Robin?
Having got the response from Steve Essence, which I copied to the chair, vice chair and the clerk, I will go back and discuss with him. But what we have to, it's very well suggesting we move the roundabout, but having looked at roundabouts, we need to know what the traffic tailing off that roundabout and movements was when they actually did the design of it. It could be that they designed it as one person suggested go to the London Road. I know what Councillor Cole's concerned about is them taking the next left down through Mitre Street, and that might mean that the signage has to be corrected at that roundabout. So when he says about sending them down the Tinger Road, he isn't suggesting that's the best route. He's just suggesting, I believe, that he doesn't want them to go down Mitre Street. Now, I'm quite happy to take those conversations up with him again, but to get further clarification, because unless we know the traffic movements and we've got the roundabout planning, a roundabout when they build one, they would have modelled that for the movements. It has to be in line with the safety audit on it. I believe that they've done an audit on that roundabout for movements, and we should find out what it says. Because and if it says that they're going to send them down the Tingit Road, we ask for a sign. If it says they're going to go to the London Road, we ask to make sure the signage on going down Gorkut Road into Mitre Street is whatever, because what we don't want to do is encourage HGVs or any of it to go down Mitre Street, do we? So we have to be really careful what we ask for. And I'll be guided by the majority here, where they believe what I've said is what they would want.
I don't think it's any harm asking for traffic modelling figures for the roundabout. Anybody else thoughts on this?
Well, we certainly want trucks going along the beginning of Church Street. You know, I mean, it's very, very narrow there, and when the pavements are more used than they are than Mitre Street is. So the real answer, and of course, I declare an interest against me, really, recommending that they come down London Road. And as I live on London Road, I'd rather there weren't trucks coming down, but nevertheless, that is the best one, the least worst alternative. Because the other, don't forget, is the Embleton Way roundabout, and we certainly don't want trucks going up into Embleton Way.
I'll take Mark first. Sorry,
Thank you. Yeah, I was absolutely clear about that. It's not for trucks. It's quite clear. I wanted to make sure that people could get down to the university and the places around that without having to go right round the town, another 2-mile journey to go right round the town, come in from the other side, still use Cannon Corner, which rather defeats what Paul Harron's just said. So that's all I'm asking for, not trucks down that road. They're already banned. And as some of you know, we recently had a meeting with Highways about the future of freight traffic in Buckingham, and that all is being gradually resolved, as I'm sure our Shire Councillor Stutchbury can add to.
I'd like to support what Councillor Cole said. What he's actually saying is correct. There's a working process, which will be even have time to discuss it tonight, about progressing that, and that paper, which hopefully we can note, because it needs to be got on with, because it's going to do much of this work to improve it, and those who took part in that group. The thing, listening to what's said, I think it's signage to the university and town centre. And I think we need to make sure that when they do this, the signage will be not encouraging lorries down there, but we have to be aware that there still is some industrial down there. And I think they didn't want industrial to go on beyond beyond that actual site into the town centre and ended up at Cannon Corner. I haven't got that paperwork in front of me, but I think seeking clarity about the movements around the roundabout and these issues isn't a bad thing. They haven't got on. I've said, was it the 7th of September or the 7th of October starting works? It must have been the 7th of October because the 7th of September has passed. So I now have that question answered, even though not in correspondence.
Okay. All right. Members happy to move on? Yep. Fab. Okay, so now we've got Buckinghamshire's guidance on trees and the planning process. I hope you've all read this and studied it. I will be asking test questions.
Noted, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah. Martin?
Yeah, I can't quite see what figure. There's no wording relating to figure 2. I'm wholeheartedly in favour of this. If even it doesn't go, I think 2 meters below ground, maybe. I know they say that the root areas are shallow but extensive, but I still think 2 meters in some cases is not far enough. But is figure 2 meant to represent while they're doing the work? Because yes, item 4's on there are at ground level, so this is all sort of above ground, possibly to protect the tree.
Yeah, that's the standard tree protection system for protecting trees that are on site and to be retained.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, as I say, it didn't make any reference to it. This could be just an extract, though, is it?
I think it's the paragraph at the bottom of the previous page.
Mm.
I mean, this is just from the website. I don't have any editing or anything to do with it. So.
Oh, okay, it is as it is it? In which case, yeah, interesting.
About root protection, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, that isn't about root protection. That's about tree protection.
Equally, you can't go digging in root areas. So the tree protection area, if you look at any of the plans, is always quite big compared with the actual size of the tree, so that you are protecting the root runs as well.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
It just stops diggers and stuff going back and forth across the soil that got tree roots in.
I've got Robin and then John.
I think it's lovely that this piece of paperwork has been produced, but what we've seen in the town recently with the amount of tree works throughout the town, I wonder how much of it would have taken place in matching this policy. I think we need to ask them some questions about design and where they place trees into developments going forward, because clearly when the plans come through, some of these trees which feature in our estates are being removed, as we discussed in previous meeting about through insurance and whatever. There's nothing, unless I've missed it, Chairman, and Catherine, tell me I'm wrong, about anything about when planting a tree in a development to protect the roots. It used to be an ancient thing in planning that there would be consideration of the tree roots. I'm minded to the fact that we've just had a development down Chandos Road, which was put up close to a nice redwood, and we all made points about how close it was to the redwood. The development still went ahead, and the redwood's still standing. But my concern is that how much weight in legal terms are they going to do to protect the trees? Because evidence suggests that it isn't possible for them to do that presently. So I just think we need to ask them those questions, because agreeing this is fine and noting it, but we we need to know what resources they're going to be put into it, because there could be some pretty major decisions about some of our landscape trees in the future, of which this doesn't look to me like it's going to be a great rebuff to it. If Catherine can prove me wrong, please do, but I'm sceptical.
No, there's nothing about actual planning estates of it, but there is in the white paper, Councillor Sturchbury.
Yeah, that bundle of paperwork.
All right, do you want to take John now?
Yeah, I mean, this document that they've sent us says nothing about the issue that prompted the reason why we asked for it. Because the reason we asked for it was obviously about to do with the routes and when they could damage buildings and so on. So I think it's deficient, and I think whoever provided this, is it AVDC? I don't know, who was it again?
This is the Shire counties, and it's their in their tree section. And as I say, I just printed them off.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we should go back to them and say, where's your guidance on trees being cut down in favour of preventing subsidence in nearby houses?
We have already written that letter.
Okay, all right. Well, all right, just to build on that then, it is, I think where the document is actually useful is in two items. One is it defines what the British standard is, 3998, for tree surgery and felling. That might be about the process being used, of course, to ensure that it's done safely, etc., etc. But I think more importantly, it also says that tree and woodland works should be carried out by reputable and suitably qualified tree contractors. Now, I think in terms of other planning applications we're looking at in the future, particularly ones pertaining to the felling of trees and other matters to do with trees, is that we should be now requiring, as per this item here, that the report should come from a member of the Arboricultural Association, either a registered consultant or an approved tree surgeon. And then we've just, I mean, we may have done this already, but I didn't. We've now got some accreditation for the kind of quality reports that we're expecting.
Yeah, fair enough. Anybody else, or are we happy to note this, move on, and just keep an eye on our actual question, which is about current trees and properties. Quickly, Robin, please.
Only just to say that this is something we should note down to put in the future neighbourhood plan.
Yeah, agreed.
Because that's the only way we're going to approach this, by getting it in a neighbourhood plan.
Definitely. Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay. Next is planning applications. Yay. Right, so first is a garage site at Pytwell Crescent, Western Avenue. So who would like to go first? Martin?
I would like to say that they need to invoke the tree policy, because there's a whole load of trees behind it, and we don't want future roots uprooting these flimsy things that they're going to build in there.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a valid point. They've not given any real consideration for the trees there. Mark, I can see your hand.
Yeah, I support what Martin says there. They're absolutely right. Developers brush this off, excuse the pun, as just brushwood. They are in fact fairly healthy trees, a lot of them, which have been there for 60 years now. Apart from the trees, the parking is still not right. There should be 54 parking spaces for this development. All they're offering at the moment is 31. They've also reverted back to the old AVDC size for parking spaces that they thought we'd said goodbye to those years ago. Highways, Transport for Bucks highways, they went to the new size 3 or 4 years ago. The planning officer here seems to have gone back, or rather VHT has gone back to the old AVDC guidelines. No disabled access because they're all first floor flats. I mean, that's something you can't really insist on, I suppose, but we should note that is excluding disabled people from this. There's other things. I think the chairman's got a few things to say, but I think generally this is not right yet, and I think we should send it back.
Yeah, I agree. There's some of their reports, Anglian Water, archaeology. There's quite a lot to excuse the pun, dig into on both of those reports. I appreciate there's things that wouldn't take place before a planning application is approved, but there's still quite a lot of information in there that we at least need to keep an eye on. If this is approved, we need to make sure these things that have been asked of the developers, such as the water and the archaeology, are done, because we know that's not often the case. Carolyn, have you got anything you'd like to add from the Buckingham Society?
No, I think the points that we were talking about were the trees, because there's no detail as to how they're going to deal with those. And we just wondered whether those roof lights that were mysteriously in the plans presented in January and have disappeared in the current set, which Catherine's pointed out, I think they've disappeared because of the trees brushing against them, and they've made a sort of slit in the roof rather than a sort of window facing the trees. I have no evidence for that, but the trees and the parking were the two issues I think we were concerned about. But we shouldn't forget at the end of the day that this sort of housing is desperately needed, and it is quite an innovative solution to providing it.
Yeah. Martin?
Yes, absolutely agree, Caroline. But we need a tree policy document of how they're going to do that. And just because they are only or are just first floor flats doesn't mean people with disabilities cannot use them. You may have a condition that just makes you out of breath, which means you can still use the first floor flat, but you would need maybe a disabled bay for a vehicle so you can park closer to your property. And also we need to make sure that the doors are of the suitable widths for wheelchairs and everything else. So just because they are on the first floor doesn't mean they can't be used by disabled people.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Very good point. And not only that, there could be a resident that's in there that becomes ill or becomes disabled through no fault of their own, that they can't be trapped in their flat. It's just, that's not, you know, you don't treat people like that. But that's interesting, Carolyn, about the possible reasons for not having the windows, the skylights. Okay, so we're going to oppose this on the grounds that Catherine's noted loads anyway.
Yep.
Parking, disabled parking, trees, definitely trees. And there was something else, wasn't there? Like the parking of those that are already parking in there, where were they going to be displaced? I think that was another issue.
I believe it's only 3 currently used in Catherine's report, but the other issue was, of course, there is a Roman road which runs behind this on Castlefield, so there would need to be some archaeological excavations at some point, but I think, as Catherine would probably tell us, that wouldn't really, that'd be later in the planning stage.
Yeah. Okay, so members are happy that we oppose this on the grounds that I've mentioned. Oh, sorry, Catherine.
Just wanted to point out that the new size parking bays that County introduced were going to take effect in the Aylesbury Vale area with VALP. So they're using them for their own parking areas that they have their control of as county, but the districts were going to adopt them with their local plans. But if they are using the figures to calculate parking spaces for the new places, then I can't see why they can't be asked to use the new parking bay sizes, which actually will accommodate a car. And I'm not surprised that only 3 of the garages are let. Have you looked at the photographs? They are in a dire state. I wouldn't put anything in there that I valued at all.
Yeah, and it's the old thing that if they don't maintain them, nobody's going to want to leave their things in them, and then they become underused and then not used, and then, oh look, we've got this massive piece of land. We can put some housing on that.
Oh, how cynical.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah, the crime prevention officer at the police is not at all happy with the access and the public walkway that's round at the back and that sort of thing. So
yeah, we've got quite a few things to add now, haven't we?
All
right.
Can you record my attention, because I will be probably seeing this application in another place, and it's been quite useful to listen to the discussion.
That's a good point. Thank you, Robin. Can we have a show of hands for those who oppose this application, please?
Everybody except for Robin.
Thank you very much. And we're noting Robin is abstaining. And the second one is Fort Hill Crest Rise. I did say to the preview planning that I'm not a customer now, but I have been in the past, and the guy's work area was quite a small section at the back of his display shop. And if there's going to be units that haven't been in use that can now be brought into use, I'm quite happy for this to go through. But what do other members feel on this one? No. All right, so
no, Councillor Hirons and try.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so just a couple of points that it's probably okay, but there really isn't any parking. And obviously they're going to aim this as more of a retail usage than it was before. I don't think it's a stopper, and I'm actually quite pleased to see people developing these for commercial use. But that is the one thing, that there isn't any proper parking there.
Right, before I bring Martin in, just to note that the Buckingham Butchers, he definitely has more customers than parking spaces outside of his butcher shop, and they manage fine. So I can't see an opticians bringing in more customers than the butchers up there. But I take Martin now. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, we were sort of opposed to this area being developed rather than being used for light industry, but time has evolved. And if this is going to be yet another improvement in that area of use for the people of Buckingham, then on a future agenda, we ought to think about promoting it and signage in a more better way than just as it is at the moment.
Good point.
Good point, but I don't know if signage is our, because it's
privately owned.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's a business park, isn't it? And a lot of the other business parks that I've been around, they have really lovely maps at the front that shows in detail where each business is. So maybe that could be something that the owners look at developing in the future.
Well, if I propose that we put it on a future agenda to discuss how we could go forward with it then.
Okay, I'm happy for that. Yeah. Right, so those who are not... Sorry, what?
Can I bring up another issue, please?
Of course you can, Paul.
At the moment, I don't know how often anyone else has been up there, but the queues to the rubbish dump there are huge. And so the fact is they block off the access to this place, because the solid queue going down round the corner and...
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And it is something that Robin and I have messaged various people about, and people do know about it. The officers in the Shire Council know, but this isn't on the agenda for tonight. So because we're limited for time, I'm not going to take any more discussions on the dumps traffic issues. I'm going to move on to 4. Oh no, sorry. So those who are happy for this one.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, no objections on this one. Yep. Cool. I think
No,
that's a general.
because if you can't get to it, what's the point of having it agreed?
It's
Abstain.
it's
I'll
temp-
abstain.
Thank you, Robin. It's,
I am following that
Paul,
matter
it's not
for you, Paul,
the
anyway.
traffic issues are not to do with this application, and we are short on time. I have explained that the officers in Shire Council do know about it and are dealing with it. Okay.
I'm saying we don't give approval until we've got space to get there.
No, that's just totally inappropriate. You can't hurt another business just because people are queuing for the dump. That's just, it's not it.
Off.
No,
Not a valid planning reason.
no, it's not.
It is.
It's not. Anyway, we're not objecting to that one. I think we've had a show of hands already. So next one is 4 Foscott Way.
I voted against, so please mark that down.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Nina, thank you very much. So 4 Foscott Way, single story rear extensions. Everybody looked at this.
Agreed.
And yeah, anybody else's thoughts? No. Fab. Okay, show of hands for agreeing this one, please. Thank you very much. Fab.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Abstention.
Yeah, you're abstaining on all of them, Robin. Thank you.
Yeah, if you just mark me down as abstain on all of them, that will save poor Nina having to me opening my mouth continuously.
Oh, she's already done it. She's done it earlier. That's fine. 12 to 13 Market Hill is our next one. I think I probably know the various points of contention on these. The only things that I kind of noted is that the town centre needs to be available for all people, all walks of life. You know, whether you've got a child or whether you move into a property that you then become pregnant and have a child. These aren't very friendly to everybody. So, but I'm happy to take comments on it. I think John had a hand up, did you? No?
No, I was just voting on the previous one.
Okay. Carolyn?
Yes, can I just pick 2 or 3 points that we discussed? Firstly, it really is impossible to read this properly digitally. And given that the white paper goes on about a digital revolution, this is a classic example of how confusing any application is when it's only can be seen on a screen, because it's tiny, apart from anything else. It needs scrutiny, not just the sort of bland sheet with a few few measurements on it. There are a lot of issues on this, we thought, but I wanted to ask Catherine, is there a minimum size room? Because they look so pokey. I'm sure that they don't follow it.
No, their Parker Morris standards were jettisoned long ago. There is no minimum size for a room.
And the other thing that worries me is with the new planning laws coming in, they could easily whip 2 stories on this building, which would make it even worse. It is overdevelopment, we think.
I think possibly we're safe on that because it's a conservation area.
Oh, yes. Yeah. But overdevelopment, and we really think it is not improving the town centre.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Mark?
Yes, I agree with Carolyn. It's overdevelopment of this part of the town centre. No lift. They've taken the lift out from the original plan we considered last January. They've put a bike store on the 2nd floor. You have to go
individual bike racks for each individual flat, except for the top 2. So yes, you've got to take your bike upstairs and put it in a cupboard in your flat.
Yeah, it's not just 2 stories, it's 4 flights of stairs. You imagine carrying a heavy bike and shopping and perhaps your baby who's been sitting in the baby seat at the back of it. Carolyn raised the question of size of flats. Flat 5 is of great concern. It is below the recommended minimum size for flats. those of you who were awake at the previous meeting will have heard me say that Mr. Johnson, when Mayor of London, fought for a new minimum home space of no less than 37 square meters. That was accepted throughout London. It was proposed it should become national, but it didn't happen in the end. But 37 square feet minimum. This is a 32.28 square meter, I should have said, square meter development. Tiny, 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 and I just don't think it works. Problems of the refuse still. Where are you going to put bins, skips? You've got to have two bins, a green one and a blue one, and you've got to have a food bin as well. Where do you put all those? The other thing, no planning application notice has gone up yet, so people may not be aware of this change to everything.
Yeah. All right, Robin.
I'm listening to this. Is this one of the applications that is that important that you'll end up seeking a shire, as we seem to use that term, councillor, to follow up because it's town centre?
Yeah.
Depending on your decision.
Yeah, we can have a discussion afterwards when we've gone through the applications, who we'll ask to call in, and they will know who we won't be asking. But so overdevelopment of the site, massive concern on room sizes, no lift, bike stores not on the ground floor, and I think that's planning rules. The only ones that we can use, really, aren't they?
The refuse.
Yeah.
There's no response at all from waste and recycling yet. But being as if they're going to put a number of bins out on the pavement, it'll be market day.
Yeah. So real concerns, so we can add that in as well. Okay. So those who want to oppose this application, please show. I don't know where Paul's gone.
Yeah, so I'm here. That's everyone except for Robin.
Right, thank you. My business abstaining. Thank you very much. Right, next one is 70 Morton Road. Let me just scroll down. There you are. Proposed garage wall and roof alterations. I can't see an issue with this one. Does anybody have an issue? No, hands to show that we're not objecting to this. Fabulous. Thank you. Robin's abstaining. Right, next one is 2 Edge Hill Court, 2-storey and single-storey side extension. We need to see root protections put in place if this goes ahead, so that we don't get any insurance claims wanting to remove the trees that will be closer to the building. Does anybody have any comments on this one?
Got Karen and Mark.
Thank you.
Yes, we possibly Mark or Martin might know the road better than we do, but we did wonder, they seem to be taking out quite a lot of green vegetation in order to make an extra parking space, having taken the garage away. And it's on a slope. And this is going to drain straight into the public highway. And I think there is some sort of condition that you can put on that makes the construction of an added drain to take this water before it rushes down the public highway away.
Oh. Okay. Catherine, do you know anything about that?
No, but it's something that the drainage lady down at Aylesbury will be taking up, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But if we point it up in our response, then she'll see that. So.
And I'd like to know how they're going to make block paving permeable.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'll take Mark and then Martin.
Thank you. As I'm reading it, it says that the front garden is to be covered with permeable block paving. Could I ask through Madam Chairman, is Carolyn saying that isn't sufficient?
well, block paving is not permeable unless it's constructed in a certain way. And the fact is that they're taking out what is a very useful suds, i.e. that planting. I think there's a little bit being left, but not much. And it is on a slope, and it's going to drain straight into the main road off the court.
Thank you. If I could just then complete what I wanted to say on this, it's
Yes.
a big extension. This it is massive. It's not over development. Just beware how big it is. The only saving grace is that other houses around it have been enlarged, extended over the years. This one has never been touched. So this is as it was in about 1975, 76 when the estate was built. The trees you can see behind in the picture, if you've got it showing, is actually Maidstone Avenue. And those trees, of course, are all semi-protected. But we've got to be so careful that they, as Carolyn said, they don't use this extension as an excuse to take more trees down. It's only the other side of the road from the 3 maples, which we're trying to save at the moment. Councillor Warren White is actually intervening at the moment with AVDC to see if there's a way around this, but we haven't heard any more back from him. Thank you.
That's why I thought if we add in there that we want to see some tree protection, the root protections put in place, that might help a little bit.
As per the new
Martin.
guidelines.
Yeah. Martin?
Yeah, on a similar vein, with the pebbles that are there, and then they're going to put block paving, which, of course, by the sheer fact is that people have said that it's not permeable, so that's going to be an issue. And we have had this problem of runoff from another development when they did it next door to the Latin school, and now with all that tarmac and the water runoff out of the Latin school runs straight across the road to the other properties. We've got the new flats there and the older properties further down Shanlos Road, which it just goes into. So it's a very good point that if we're losing the vegetation, we're losing the pebbles, and it's on a slope, they must have a drainage system on their land to make sure that that doesn't come off onto the public area.
Yeah.
And do we have a material build statement for this as well? Do we know what they're going to actually build it in?
I believe it just said matching materials.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that mean reclaimed bricks or just one from the same company?
Okay, so those who so no objections to this extension, show of hands please.
Madam Chairman, subject to the tree preservation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
the drainage.
And drainage, yeah.
So drainage and trees.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I think that's the majority. Okay, our next one is 100 Pillow Way, single story rear extension. It's on they've got quite a lot of lands there. I don't see an issue with this personally. What do members think?
So, sorry, we're not 2 Edge Hill Court.
Oh, have I missed one?
That's what we just did, Martin.
Oh, is that one, was it? Right.
Okay,
right.
Good.
You beg your pardon. I've got out of step as well.
Right, so 100 Pillow Way, there's no site notices yet. But any thoughts? Mark, yeah.
Yes, I said at the briefing this afternoon, no site notices, and our planning clerk has corrected me. They were halfway down the thing.
Oh, so that's fine.
I had my head on the pillow at the time. So I can sit, there's nothing in my mind against this application now. It's fine.
Okay, so show of hands for no objections to this one, please. You see Paul Ivans with his finger. Okay, and Robin's abstaining. Thank you very much. And next one is 11 Linen Lane. Mark, did you want to say something on this one?
Yes, I will. I thought Carolyn might jump up first of all because it's about a bridleway. 11 Lynn Lane, application for a certificate of lawfulness for a proposed loft conversion. We were advised by our clerk that as this fronts onto a bridleway, which is a public highway, it should perhaps have had its PDR removed. So I don't think although it's not for consultation, we should draw attention to the Shire Planning Office that we believe that this should be a planning application, not a certificate of lawfulness.
Yeah. Do members agree with that? Show of hands if you agree. Okay. And Robin's abstaining again. Thank you very much. Right, I think that's all of our plan applications done. Catherine, thank you again for a fantastic report on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, planning decisions. You can all note those. Yep. 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 Oh, Mark. Yep.
Yeah. May I raise, please, 7 Crone Close, which this council opposed. The planning officer wrote our response up wrongly and made it look like we were supporting it. Catherine wrote to the planning officer concerned, I won't name him, saying that we were misrepresented, the good reputation of the committee is damaged, and asking for an apology from him. No such apology has been forthcoming yet. My proposal is that we go back to Buckinghamshire Planning Department, and in the interests of good democracy, I'm going to use the actual words, so an abuse of democratic process by reason of misrepresentation of our response, ask that the planning decision be overturned and revisited with our objections properly taken into account. We need action on this.
I'm more than happy to agree to that. Do members agree to that?
Yes.
Show of hands quickly. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, next is number 8, Buckinghamshire Council members. So we've got the first one is the guide to changes to the use classes order in England. You've all seen those, haven't you? Appendix D. Does anybody have any thoughts on them? John, I can see your hand.
Yeah, I would just move that we just note 8.1 and 8.3. I don't think we need to discuss them at this point. They are what they are.
Yeah, I suppose I'm happy with that. Do members agree? We skip over we note them, sorry, 8.1 and 8.3.
Noted.
I've got Martin, and then Paul wanted to speak.
No, I was just agreeing.
Oh, okay.
I agree with you, Councillor Harvey. We just note them because we can't do anything about them. But it's interesting in the future how we would differentiate between a cafe and a shop and a financial or professional services, as if we ever need to. I wonder what the Buckingham Society thinks about that. Do we need to, or do people need to differentiate when we're talking about classes of accommodation, I suppose?
What do we think? I have to say we haven't discussed the change of use at a meeting, really. We noted the what has been agreed, what is actually now in situ. I think it is confusing, yes, personally. This Class E replaces what had been understood as a separate sort of A, Bs and Cs under one other class A, in other words. So yes, I think it's going to cause confusion, and I suspect this will not be the last of it. There'll be lots of tinkering with it.
Yeah. Right, thank you for that, Karen. Right, so we're jumping straight to the consultations.
Can we do 8.2?
Oh gosh. Oh yes, sorry, 8.2.
You've got two that you've opposed. You've opposed Python Crescent and Market Hill.
All right, so let's get Appendix F up. Let's see who. Right, who do members want to nominate? I've got John's hand up.
Do you want me to say something then? I mean, I'm looking at the list that we're going to note in the next point, and obviously it is the case that Robin is taking the lion's share so far. It is also the case that Warren is probably going to be very, very selective given his role within Buckinghamshire Council as cabinet member for planning. And obviously on the basis that councillors are not going to really want to do anything outside their own ward, generally speaking, I think we've got to keep putting people like Tim Mills and Howard and Simon Cole on the spot, basically, because they've got to play their part here. I was a bit concerned earlier on. I forgot to mention it earlier on in one of the items under the action report, where Howard's comment was to say that the calling in required some extra special kind of standards. But what are these standards? It says, it's going back a bit, apologies for that, colleagues, but it says, Howard said, the call-in procedure is not just an extension of a planning objection, but has to have substantial reasons. Now, I'd like to know what those substantial reasons are, as far as he's concerned, because when we object to a planning application, in our view, because we are a serious committee, we always have substantial reasons for objecting. And I'd like to know why it is that Howard thinks that somehow, he can judge our reasons as being not substantial. So I think we need to really challenge the councillors other than Robin in the first instance, so that we begin to show a pattern that if these councillors are simply refusing to actually bring forward and challenge decisions and get them discussed at the relevant planning committee, then that should be a public record. So in my view, I've now forgotten which two applications we're talking of, the M&Co one, aren't we? Well, I think it's important that we either ask Simon Cole or Tim Mills. And what was the other one we're objecting to? I've forgotten.
Python Crescent.
Oh yeah.
Python Crescent. Okay, so that's in their same league then. So we ask Tim one and Simon the other, is what I would suggest.
I'll second that.
Yeah, thank you. Before I take Robin, I just want to say that that's the whole real purpose for this spreadsheet, is to highlight exactly who is doing what and who isn't. It's just unfortunate that one of our Shire councillors prefers to communicate by phone, so it's not actually anything in writing, but he's refusing quite a lot.
Well, record the telephone call then, on that basis.
Say that again, sorry.
Record the telephone call on that basis, so he's not going to go on the record, which I think is shocking, frankly.
If you can tell me how to do that on a landline, Councillor Harvey, I'd be delighted.
I'll help you, Catherine. Just let me know and I'll help you.
All right, Robin now. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, I have concerns about councillors telling you what they think are planning conditions. I don't think we've got enough training as Shire councillors to be advising you what are planning conditions. All I will say is that the stuff that I have called on the Mays Morton Road application, which I've discussed with the officer, she said, "I'll need material conditions." Then she said, "Oh, you've put a lot in already, haven't you, Robin?" Well, I must admit, most of what I put in was what was said here. So that, that was material conditions and a few grammatical errors that I added for good flavour from myself. But I don't know how we can make those statements. We are not trained planners. We are councillors. We're not fountains of knowledge. So, and I do think we should try them all first. But out of the ones you've mentioned, if it's necessity because it's the town centre, if nobody comes back, I've got 4 already ongoing. I would
it doesn't look good for the other councillors
that we do it. I mean, I'm not sure that all the councillors know when the application comes for, whether it's even in their area of remit. You don't have to have it in your area of remit. I mean, I could be doing applications in Tindrick, to Eston, anywhere, you know, and I think we haven't yet resolved the constitution issue, which is foremost behind this. But please ask them. But if that's the case that nobody's going to do it, can we have another discussion about which is the most important out of all these applications? Because I would take another one on, but I don't think it's right that I should have two on.
No, it's not. It's not fair at all. But thank you for your offer, and it is well noted. Thank you. All right. So number 9 is the consultations.
Have we agreed that it was proposed and seconded? Have we agreed?
Sorry?
Councillor Harvey's proposal, which I seconded. Have we taken a vote on it?
Oh, for the Shire councillors to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Those who agree, please show your hands. Thank you very much.
I shouldn't really vote for this.
Well, you are a town councillor.
Well,
Robert.
I'll vote to ask the Shire councillors, but I don't want to be voting to ask myself. I'd like to be voting to ask somebody else.
It'd be like a turkey voting for Christmas, Robin.
Yeah, I mean, I may get psychological issues for having two people's heads on, you know.
All right, next to consultations. So we've got Appendix G. That's a very tight deadline. Catherine, what was it that you said earlier? Am I resending out an email? Did we agree?
Yeah, I've sent it on to you straight after the meeting this afternoon. But I think really it's so detailed, and we've got to give so many reasons for these, that if members are happy to just go through the questions, filling in their own answers, I will collate them into at least a majority vote and send it out for agreement by email. I mean, otherwise it would be nice if we could sit around the table and go through it one afternoon and thrash it out, but clearly we can't.
Yeah.
But we do need to get a view of all 8 of you, and I've done all the questions up onto a single sheet for each one. If you can just put yes, no, and the reasons why if requested to, then I'll do what I can to collate the lot.
All right, thank you. All right, so members, I'm resending out the email, and I want you all to fill it in, please. John?
Because I do
I'll probably be beautiful and have a go at it myself, but frankly, I don't really see the point, because this government is not listening to people. It's not listening to any kind of wise counsel. We can be as considered and logical and careful as we want to be, but frankly, I just don't think they're going to listen one job. But I'll probably fill out the questions anyway.
But if we have a written response, Councillor Harvey, then we can offer it to the Shire Council and anybody else who's interested in what our views are. But I do need a majority of you, and that means 5, please.
I will be dutiful, Catherine, I promise.
5 of you agree, not 4 of each. 4 not.
All right, I've got Robin and then Mark.
I'll attempt to do this for you, Catherine, if it comes back to me. Obviously, please don't send any of my submissions to the government without editing it. It may be in a language they haven't spoken for some time, but I do think we have to do this. The other thing about it is, if all the parishes in the country do it, and wake up to this travesty of a piece of legislation, then that cannot be a bad thing. And we can always hope that the House of Lords do what the House of Lords do best, which is throw it straight back at them. You know, we can hope for that, because they've spent a lifetime drafting all the other legislation that they want to abolish. So they probably understand it better than the rest of us. as MPs
Okay.
and now as House of Lords.
All right, so we're all going to do this, okay? Promise me. Thank you.
And I suggest
Mark?
that we send a copy to Greg Smith as well when we've done it.
Yeah, quite happy for that. Yeah.
Yeah, just to be clear, we're just talking about Appendix G at the moment, or
Yes.
all three.
No,
Yeah.
all three of them, if you want to, because it's much easier. They've all got complex questions. They've all got reasons to be requested. You don't have to answer every one of them. You can answer the ones that you think are relevant. But if I've got a set I can make some answers from, that'll do.
What I'm saying is Appendix G is due back in by this Thursday, but we've got another month on the other two. So can we have a bit of leeway on those? I'm not in a position to fill all three in because I'm off to Le Mans-on-Thames tomorrow. So
I can't see a problem with that. I mean, I was talking about just G, so yeah, I'm happy for that. If that's all right with you as well, Catherine.
Well, if you could start with G, but I'd like the other ones as well, because I am on leave next week, and so I've got a limited amount of time to do the collation.
Yeah,
right, thank you.
We'll all try our best and do all of them. Okay, so summaries 9.2. Do we have to 9.2 to receive details and meeting notes, the freight group meeting? Are we happy to note those?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
You to just go through the
could I just
criticise
Robin, hold on, Catherine's talking. Yes, Catherine.
These are not the official minutes of the meeting. These are the notes I took watching it. But they did seem to want your views on the various ideas that they put forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Robin.
If only because they want to block Wells Street off and use either Manor Street or St Rumbold's to get to Church Street and things like that. And I have my doubts. I don't drive, so I'm not qualified to say, but I don't think that sending large vehicles up St Rumbold's Lane is a good idea.
No.
And Manor Street's worse because you've got to do Nelson Street first.
Yeah.
Thank you for those.
Yeah, it was a bit of a lengthy and long discussion. I felt that there was two chunks of opinion there. I don't know whether Catherine got that we would get on with some of the easy stuff to do, which was because there was a limited amount of money to actually do it. And there was some low-hanging fruit stuff which came out at the early part of the meeting. And then some of this other stuff, like, which was very difficult to do, was the St Rumbold's stroke, whatever. But the thing I did get was a very strong feeling to do something about Wells Street and then not going up, round top there, Church Street. I felt that was the one that won. I mean, we haven't had the notes back of all. That's my feeling, but I do share Catherine's thought about some of this stuff. It was a bit sort of with these meetings like this, coming to a consensus. He who speaks last speaks most, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think we just need clarification. I think we have to support it because doing nothing is worse than doing what they're going to do. But I don't think this St Rumbold's thing was very good. I don't think the officer doing it knew all the names of the streets in the same way that other people do. That's not of criticism to him, because he stated that he'd moved to this area and this was a task that he'd been given to do. So I don't know what Catherine thinks. I'd be interested.
Well, I mean, a lot of the initial stuff was based on the work done by Mr. Childs at the Buckingham Society. And he was leaning on that without being able to criticise it from his own practical point of view, because he's been self-isolating quite a length of these months. So he's not actually walked the route himself. And it did show. I mean, the Wells Street proposal is, I don't know how well you know Wells Street, but you know the wall with the steps in by the chip shop. Well, as you go towards the Methodist Church, pretty well opposite the pub, there are steps that come out of that wall and into the roadway.
Yeah.
What they're proposing is effectively traffic calming there to stop any lorries going through. They don't think that putting a sign up with a weight limit on is working, but if there's a physical barrier to going there, but that does mean that you've got to turn around in the end of Ford Street and go out back to Bridge Street again. If you were, then Robin very sensibly said, well, if we put the signage well in advance that there is no through route for an HGV, then they don't actually have to come down and find that they're stuck and have to turn around and go out again. But you still need to be able to get fire engines and, you know, removal vans and what have you to the top part of Wells Street. And how do you do that?
Yeah. All right, Karen.
I would just add that obviously, yes, we've had long discussions about this in the Buckingham Society, and I've seen these vast vehicles getting stuck at the top of Wells Street and then having to be liberated, if that's the right word, by police and so forth. And it's horrifying. They've literally taken out bricks and corners of walls. And I really think there has to be some way of stopping vehicles of that size getting up Wells Street. And these are much bigger vehicles than fire engines or refuse lorries. So I think it would be possible to have some sort of physical barrier that allows a fire engine. I mean, we do have these movable bollards in towns, which you know, fire engines and refuse lorries can use because they're authorized. But it's really got to stop these large vehicles getting up there and getting stuck.
Christine Strain Clark says they have a rather smaller refuse wagon to do Church Street than the rest of us get in the town. So they are, I mean, some people are advised, but if you're moving into a flat, then you can't guarantee what size of removal wagon you're going to get, can you? So,
I mean, just to come back, the Tindrick Road thing was a suggestion about blocking traffic coming down Tindrick Road and whatever. It totally ignored the university and the refuse collection, and that the refuse collection would have to go all the way around Buckingham to come back through past whatever. There was a lot of problems in it. Some easy making suggestions to stop somebody doing something, but there's consequences with every suggestion. I felt that the Wells Street, if there was any solid barrier type, was the only thing that made it through as Sonnet, and the other things were just nice to have. And I don't think Tindrick Road went through because, you know, there was questions about we need to seek assurance from the waste disposal of the rounds, because it seems nonsense that you do around, then turn around and go all around Buckingham and come back to do the other house. You had to work with all these other services. Those sort of questions he was left to go away and answer. So presumably the office has gone away and answered those questions. I must admit, I suggested a lot of those go away and answer questions because it seemed like we were charging to a direction, and I weren't 100% sure, although I understand the will to do something, but the will to do something and then make things worse would be even worse, wouldn't it?
Of course. All right, thank you for that. Right. So we've got next the community board, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, so it's a paragraph more than a report, and it's just drawing your attention to the fact there is funding available, but we don't yet know what the process is going to be for it. So it's one to start thinking about, but not to discuss or make decisions on tonight.
You're not lonely in that. You're not lonely not knowing what the process is. I think we have to be assured that it isn't a councillor's checkbook and that there is a process, because it worries me, because it is public money. We need to make sure that it's properly accounted for and people get a fair crack of the whip. At the moment, I don't know how it's going to work. I'm not even 100% sure the chairman's been told what the protocol of it's going to be yet. So we do need to. It's something that I think we should write to the cabinet member who's doing the community boards, or write to the officer who's clerking it, because it's silly. This will be the second meeting and we don't know the criteria of making bids to allocation. We'll meet once more, twice more, and that we may even have an election. That means the funds won't get committed and that's a disaster, really, isn't it? Whoever they don't get spent on, or what they don't get spent on. So I think we do need that clarity, because they put a lot of it into.
Paul, do you know if there's have you gone back to anybody to ask any more questions?
Yeah, my understanding is guidance is coming out. We may find out more at the meeting tomorrow night, but it's all like so many things with Unitary at the moment. It's all in process.
Yeah, I was wondering that if we'll find out tomorrow. Martin? Oh, you're coming back.
Sorry. Is the boundary the same as before, or is it, the villages included in this?
So it's a smaller boundary than before. So before, I think there were 32 parishes, including Buckingham, and now it's just going to be 16, including Buckingham and the villages. So it includes the Claydons. Is the money
proportional to that reduction?
No, Robin's shaking his head.
The money was allocated at the start of the financial settlement. I thought they'd agreed that and voted what money was going to be.
Yeah, they've agreed the amounts.
But I mean,
they haven't agreed.
It won't be. There's no proportionality to the areas of whatever. There's nothing like that in there. It's about bids to the money.
There is on this fund in particular. They have calculated the local infrastructure fund somehow based on what is appropriate for the local area, and obviously you would imagine that Buckingham would take the bulk of the hit of the need for infrastructure within the Buckingham villages area.
I'll take that under advisement.
I'm guessing, Robin.
Did that answer your question, Martin?
Sort of, thank you.
Okay. All right, so yeah, we'll bring back any answers that we get from the board meeting tomorrow night, or just send them out in an email if that's better.
And we've got to agree the minutes first. The minutes aren't that accurate.
No, but that's not our thing. Okay, so number 11, the Buckinghamshire Council committee meetings cancelled and no Buckingham applications. Moving on to enforcement, number 12. Has anybody got any enforcement issues? I can see Mark's hand.
Yeah, potential enforcement at 6 Cornwall's Meadow. It's the Panache hairdressers, which has been closed since the start of the pandemic. Notices have gone up for license application from Inspires Dining, who already own Vibbins and own the Zinc cocktail bar. It's an application for a licensed bar with music. The application actually says it is currently a small cafe, which is inaccurate, but it would be a change of use under the new regime from F2 to E. So we'd need to keep an eye on that if they do give approval for licensed premises, that they do get a change of use. Secondly, that's all on enforcement, sorry.
That's okay. Anybody else got anything on enforcement before we move on? No, thank you. Matters to report, item 13, anything here? No, John.
Yeah, Robin's been on this case as well, but just to raise the issue about the new build at on the Tindrick Road, they don't seem to be putting in drop curbs. I've noticed this particularly at the exit point, and I'm just a bit, worried that we're going to get the same shenanigans we had with the smaller estate just down the road from them. I think, surely we should not have to be asking these developers to do this. So I think a letter to say, come on, guys, get your act together, and please make sure that all the other places on the estate where drop curbs are required are also going in right from the outset and don't have to be, re-engineered in after they've done the wrong thing in the first place.
Yeah.
I think the question on the Tindrick Road, there's lots of questions on the Tindrick Road which are still unresolved. COVID has stopped any conversation. Contractors have only just come back for the roundabout. Doesn't seem much activity. I think I need to get that email address for 2 reasons off the town clerk, something we spoke about separate to this. because I do think we need to start a conversation about this. You're quite right, because what we don't want to do is when they've moved away, try and get it done then, because you know, and they've got to all be adopted and they've all got to be transferred over. And if you think about Lace Hill, they still haven't transferred all the highways over in Lace Hill yet. So we're going to be discussing this for a long time, but John's absolutely right that we need to get our comments in early in the and recorded and measured.
Definitely, yeah. Are members happy with that? Drop curbs, Tindrick Road, that needs to be something that we highlight and impress on them. That's like very important. Did anybody else have anything on matters to report? Mark?
Yeah, signage. As you coming into Buckingham from the old Stratford roundabout, just before you get to Wharf View on Stratford Road, there is a school patrol sign that's been flashing on and off since the end of July. I reported it on my street in the middle of August, but it's still flashing this morning. So it's been going for 2 months now. I don't know how much electricity it's using, but there's, even when there was no school, it's been flashing. Normally, I believe it's the duty of the lollipop person to activate it, but obviously something's gone wrong.
Ah, right. Okay, so is there anything else to... Oh, sorry, Robin.
There is a conference tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, which runs through the morning on Microsoft Teams. I understand that there was invites sent out. I've foolishly put my name down to go as a Buckinghamshire councillor. I have submitted some questions. That wasn't one of them.
What meeting is it for, Robin?
It's a conference. If you remember when the county used to have these conferences with TFB, where you could go and listen to TFB talk about what TFB have or haven't done. So they're doing a sort of equivalent conference. I mean, I've asked them when the contract's up for renewal and useful things like that. So I'm sure they'll be pleased to answer them because clearly TFB's, you know, this is a new council and the way that they have been operating, that contract doesn't look whatever. But these things about these lights and that, I didn't have any other councillors going from the town council. They were invited. I'm going wearing a different cap, but I would have asked.
Has anybody else seen an invite to do a conference tomorrow?
I circulated the invite to councillors.
Okay, so we have all got it, but not all seen it. All right, thank you for that, Robin.
I'm sure they'll know I'm there. But I think these sort of things that Mark's on about, fix my streets, and the fact that it hasn't actually done, I think that might be interesting to see whether that question comes out of one of the questions that makes it through. Because if a councillor's reported it and it's not been actually followed up, that was a simple thing to resolve. A man stopping with a screwdriver, opening a box and turning it off.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, so chairman's items. Catherine, you mentioned if there was time under chairman's items for me to raise this, and we have got 20 minutes. So I'm just reading through to see what it's about. It's 14 Gilbert Scott Road. Yeah, Catherine, do you want to speak on this at all?
Yeah, I haven't got the email to hand. We did this, I think, last meeting. It's a bungalow and it's sort of set crossways on to Gilbert Scott Road and Bradfield Avenue. They wanted to put a dropped curb and some hard standing in the verge so that they could park off road. The lady is disabled. She's got osteoporosis and she can't walk that far. And the officer has been extremely difficult. They say that the verge is still classified as public open space and she's got to pay another 470 quid or something to get a proper application through. And her architect has said this is nonsense and is there anything we can do? And I have to say that there isn't really, because we're only consultees. I mean, I sympathise horrendously, but I don't honestly think that even writing to the officer and saying have a heart would work.
Well, I'm wondering, because we have got the accessibility disability group that was formed from the town council. What do members think? Could we write a letter in support? What is there anything anybody can think of doing to help out? No one.
That's all we can do, I think.
No one. Okay, so no one thinks a letter, no?
You could go back through what it was again.
So it's a small.
It's a bungalow. They acquired some of the green space next to it a long time ago because they were going to build an extension, which they never got round to. And what it appears to me is that when AVDC sold them that land, they forgot to relabel it as residential curtilage instead of public open space. And the officer is now saying it's still public open space, so she's got to go the full works rather than just do it the easy way.
She needs to write to John Chilvers and ask him, because John Chilvers is property and stuff, and he's a cabinet member. I did get when I wrote to him over the debacle of the lost car parking, he did get involved in it. So I think John Chilvers is the person, because he will identify that it is no longer their property. And he was doing the same thing in Buckinghamshire Council, and he was in finance doing similar things in the district. So I think he would know it, or he would at least know what we were talking about, which is always a good thing with a councillor. If you
I'll put that to her straight after this meeting. I won't even wait till the morning, so that when she gets up and looks at it, it'll be there for her.
I'm surprised that she hasn't got any proof of sale, like solicitors weren't involved or anything.
She has acquired the property since. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. They had permission for this.
Okay.
And that wasn't in the same name, so it's definitely changed hands since.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that, Robin. That's a good suggestion.
It's doing no harm. It's a flat bit of paving in a verge. You know, it's
it's not being used currently. So what's the harm?
You can't put anything on it. Okay, I'll do that straight away tonight then.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, I don't have any other items. Nothing else to discuss. Sorry, John.
Yeah, just quickly, was Anthony's apologies recorded at the beginning?
Yes,
I believe they were.
They were.
Fine, no worries.
With Geraldine's as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I must admit, I did enjoy the planning meeting more than I enjoyed full council.
Well, I did try and get the motion moved forward, but I wasn't supported, so we very nearly ran out of time for this meeting. But thanks to everybody to keep everything nice and short and on point tonight. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Paul, very much. And thank you, Carolyn, for coming along as well.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Yeah, we had an excellent chairman.
Exemplary.
I've got a splitting headache now.